I found out about the apartment through my wife, Polly. It was an old family property registered to her parents but managed by her. She'd rented it out to a woman named Eva, around Polly's age, 37, who had neither a husband nor children. For 6 months, Eva had been living there, and I'd never met her until that fateful day. I got home earlier than usual, intending to surprise Polly with dinner plans. As I entered, I heard voices coming from the living room. Polly was talking to someone, but I couldn't make out who. I walked in and saw Polly sitting on the couch with a woman I didn't recognize. "Hey, you're home early," Polly said, her voice slightly nervous. "Yeah, I thought we could have dinner together," I replied, eyeing the stranger. "This is Eva," Polly introduced. "She's the one renting the apartment." Eva stood up and extended her hand. "Nice to meet you," she said with a friendly smile. "Nice to meet you too," I replied, shaking her hand. I noticed Polly's blouse was wrinkled. "Why is your blouse so wrinkled?" I asked. Polly glanced down and smoothed the fabric. "Oh, I just forgot to iron it this morning," she said quickly. We chatted for a bit and then Eva left. Over the next few weeks, I noticed that Polly was spending more time at the apartment, claiming she needed to take care of some maintenance issues. I didn't think much of it until one evening when I saw her text messages while she was in the shower. A message from Eva popped up, and the tone was very weird, damn similar to intimate. I decided to keep an eye on her. The next day, Polly told me she was going to the apartment again. I waited for her to leave and then decided to follow her. I made several unannounced visits to the apartment, each time under some pretext. Each time I found Polly and Eva either on the sofa or at the table, always fully clothed and always claiming to be talking. However, they always seemed either excited or confused when I walked in, like I'd interrupted something private. One time I showed up with some tools, claiming I wanted to help with the repairs. Polly and Eva were sitting on the couch, their faces flushed. "Oh, we were just talking," Polly said quickly, standing up and smoothing her skirt. "You didn't need to come, Bill." Another time I brought over some groceries, saying I thought they might need some supplies. This time they were at the kitchen table, sitting close together. "Thanks, but we were just about to head out," Polly said, her smile a bit too forced. Each encounter left me more suspicious. The way they looked at each other, the way they always seemed slightly out of breath or flustered when I arrived. It all painted a picture that didn't quite add up. Each time I had walked in on them, they seemed either too flushed or too relaxed, like I had just missed something. Either they hadn't had time to get into it, or they had already finished and were basking in the afterglow. It dawned on me that my timing was off. I decided to take a different approach. The structure of the apartment building allowed for some eavesdropping. One time, Polly told me she was heading to the apartment again. Her excuse was convincing enough that if I hadn't been suspicious, I would have believed her. She mentioned something about needing to check the wiring, which sounded plausible enough. About 10 minutes after she left, I followed her. I climbed the stairs to the right floor and leaned against the wall in the common corridor, pressing my ear to the wall. At first, their conversation was mundane. Talk about the apartment, how Eva was finding the place, and some small talk about their day. Then the conversation shifted. They started talking about their families, their relationships, and slowly the topics became more intimate. Polly's voice took on a softer tone as she complimented Eva. "You have such beautiful eyes, Eva. I've never seen such a deep shade of blue." Eva giggled, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "And your lips, Polly. They're so full and perfect. I could kiss them all day." The air between them grew thicker with tension. I felt my heart race as I continued to listen. "Your waist is so refined," Polly continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "And those legs so perfectly shaped." Eva responded in kind. "Your breasts, Polly, they're just the right shape and size. I've always admired them." My back started to ache from the position, but I couldn't tear myself away. Their compliments flowed easily, each one more intimate than the last. This foreplay, full of verbal affection and subtle sounds of touch, went on for about 20 minutes. I caught myself thinking about how Polly always wanted more foreplay from me, and how I never quite satisfied her in that aspect. Our foreplay usually lasted 5 minutes, if that, and I realized now how much she craved more. Suddenly their voices died down, replaced by soft moans. The moaning grew louder, and I knew they were moving beyond foreplay. I took a deep breath and reached into my pocket for the key, readying myself to confront them. I waited another 7 minutes, listening to their escalating passion. Finally, I knew they were fully engaged with each other. I didn't want to create a scene, at least not immediately. I needed to confirm my suspicions. I opened the door quietly and stepped inside. I could hear the moans more clearly now, and as I approached the living room, they grew louder. I walked through the door, and as expected, they heard me in advance and scrambled to get dressed. Eva was fumbling with her shirt, and Polly was trying to pull up her pants. They looked up at me, shocked and panicked. I couldn't help but smirk at the sight. "Hey, I didn't accidentally interrupt your filming for that black-orange site, did I?" Polly's face went pale, and she opened her mouth to speak but closed it again. She quickly realized the futility of pretending. She sat down on the sofa, defeated. I sat down on the office chair across from them. "Well, answer my question. I wouldn't be particularly surprised if you shot adults' movies besides that." Eva remained silent, staring at the floor. Polly finally found her voice, though it was shaky. "How dare you talk about me like that?" I made an exaggerated face of amazement. "Apparently you can do more than I can." Polly's eyes flashed with anger, but she didn't retort. Instead, she looked away, tears brimming in her eyes. "Look, Polly," I said, my tone calm, "the realization of what's been going on between you two came to me gradually. I'm calm now because I've had time to process it. So let's calm down and discuss this later. For now, I'm going outside." With that, I got up and walked out of the apartment, leaving them half naked and stunned. I walked out of the apartment, the cold air hitting me as I stepped onto the street. I decided to just walk along the highway, trying to clear my mind. Yes, if it had been some pumped-up bearded bodybuilder instead of Eva, everything would have been much simpler, I thought. Maybe then I would have reacted more decisively. Polly never told me she was bisexual. It was something I had never even suspected. I always thought that people of non-traditional sexual orientation had some unusual appearance. You know, like dyed hair, bright makeup, or flashy manicure. But no, both Polly and Eva looked like ordinary girls. Polly with her light brown hair that fell in soft waves around her shoulders, her fair skin and expressive green eyes. She always dressed modestly, preferring jeans and sweaters. Eva was similar in many ways, with straight dark hair cut in a sleek bob, hazel eyes, and a warm, inviting smile. She often wore simple blouses and skirts, nothing that screamed for attention. As I walked, I realized I had a very strange feeling that I'd probably never experienced before in my life. I didn't even know what I should have done, at least at that moment. I once heard a program on TV where the host discussed with a psychologist whether sex with a person of the same sex is cheating on your partner. I didn't think about those words at all when I heard the phrase. But now, the words echoed in my mind, and I quickly realized that this was indeed betrayal. I had to treat it the same way as if instead of Eva there had been a bearded, pumped-up bodybuilder. As I continued walking, I came across a strange and seemingly homeless man. He behaved a little oddly, laughing and approaching different people who naturally avoided him. He came up to me and asked, "You look so thoughtful. What's on your mind?" In a normal situation, I would have ignored him and walked away. But now in my current state, I simply answered, "My wife cheated on me." I took a slight pause and added, "with a woman." The man's eyes bulged and he exclaimed, "My God, that's not a woman, that's a bitch. You have nothing to do with her, buddy, be free." He shouted and skipped off further down the road. I watched the homeless man as he disappeared into the distance. His advice, as crude as it was, seemed very reasonable. Maybe he had a point. I kept walking until I reached an eatery that sold a popular Canadian fast food called poutine. It was French fries sprinkled with cheese and topped with sweetened gravy. I ordered myself a portion, took it to a nearby bench, and sat down. I finished the poutine and threw the empty container in the trash. As I started walking, my phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. I hesitated but decided to answer. "Hello?" "Hi, Bill, it's Eva," said the voice on the other end. I frowned. "Eva, how did you get my number?" "Polly gave it to me," she replied. "She's very upset and can't talk to you right now. Can we meet in person? It's a lot to discuss over the phone." I sighed, not sure if I was ready for this conversation, but agreed anyway. All right, where do you want to meet? There's a park close to where you are, right? How about there in 10 minutes? Fine, I said and hung up. I made my way to the park, wondering what Eva could possibly want to say. A few minutes later, I saw Eva walking towards me. She looked anxious but determined. As soon as she got close enough, I couldn't resist making another jab. So, did you two manage to shoot a video? Did my presence mess up your take? If my face got in the frame, I demand to be blurred out at the very least, otherwise it's disrespectful. Eva's face flushed, clearly taken aback. I'm sorry, Bill, she said softly. I continued to mock her and Polly, throwing out every offensive joke I could think of. I guess you two were just practicing for a career in adult films, huh? Polly always wanted to be a star, didn't she? Maybe next time you could invite me for a cameo. Or would that ruin your all-girls theme? Eva winced at each jab, but remained standing in front of me. Bill, I understand you're angry, and you have every right to be, but please, let's talk seriously. I crossed my arms and glared at her. I came here so you could apologize and make excuses. But fine, what do you have to say? Eva took a deep breath. Polly is really struggling with this. She didn't mean for things to get this complicated, and she didn't want to hurt you. She's been confused about her feelings for a long time. Is my face in the frame? I asked, unable to resist one last barb. Eva looked down, clearly hurt, but she pressed on. No, Bill. Your face isn't in any frame. I'm here because Polly can't face you right now. She doesn't know how to explain what she's feeling. She's been struggling with her bisexuality for a long time, and meeting me brought those feelings to the surface. I stared at her, feeling the weight of her words. There is no point in struggling bisexuality if you were born that way. And you? What's your part in all of this? Eva nodded, swallowing hard. I care about Polly. I didn't plan for any of this to happen. We didn't mean to betray you, but it got out of hand. Polly loves you, Bill. She's just confused and needs time to sort through her feelings. I looked at her. So what do you want from me, Eva? I want you to talk to Polly when she's ready, Eva said earnestly. Give her a chance to explain herself. She's scared and doesn't want to lose you. I sighed heavily, running a hand through my hair. This is a lot to take in. Eva placed a hand on my arm. Just be patient. Give her time. That's all I ask. I looked into her eyes, seeing the sincerity there. Despite everything, she seemed genuine. All right, Eva. I'll give her time. Eva was looking relieved. Thank you, Bill. That's all I ask. I turned and walked away, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. As I walked away from the park, my mind kept circling back to Polly and her emotional state. She was the one who had cheated, yet now I had to wait for her to be ready to talk to me. The irony of it all made me want to laugh. While everything fell on Polly instantly, I had weeks to accept what was happening between her and Eva. Eva had said Polly would call me when she was ready to talk. At first I agreed, but now I thought, why should I wait? She cheated on me, and now I had to wait for her to be ready. I decided I would go back to the apartment and talk to Polly immediately. As I was making my way back to the apartment, my phone rang. It was my colleague, Lenny. I had completely forgotten that today was our boss's birthday and we were supposed to have a corporate party. Hey, Bill, Lenny said cheerfully. Just checking if everything's all right. We're ordering food and making sure there's enough for everyone. The party starts in about 40 minutes. For a moment, I considered explaining everything to Lenny, but then thought better of it. Hey, Lenny, yeah, everything's fine. I'll be there. I hung up, abandoning the idea of talking to Polly for the moment. I drove back to our apartment, quickly freshened up and changed into something more suitable. At the corporate party, couriers brought in stacks of pizza boxes and trays of sushi. While I had been dealing with problems with Polly, I had completely forgotten to buy something for the boss. On the way there, I stopped at a perfume store and picked up a bottle of cologne. I remembered seeing the same brand on the boss's desk once, so I hoped it would be a suitable gift. I arrived at the party just as the food and drinks were being set up. My colleagues greeted me with smiles and raised glasses. I handed the gift to the boss, who was pleasantly surprised. Thanks, Bill, you didn't have to, he said, giving me a friendly pat on the back. Just a little something to show my appreciation, I replied, forcing a smile. I decided that the best way to distract myself was to dive into the party. I grabbed a slice of pizza and a drink, then made my way to a group of young female colleagues. They were laughing and chatting, clearly enjoying the evening. "Hey, ladies," I said with a grin, joining their circle. "How's the party going?" "Hey, Bill," one of them, Jessica, replied with a smile. "It's great. How about you? You seem a bit off." I shrugged, trying to play it cool. Just a lot on my mind. I spent the next hour or so flirting and chatting with my colleagues, trying to keep my mind off Polly and Eva. The drinks flowed and the atmosphere grew even more relaxed. Our advertising campaign was relatively small, but the camaraderie was strong. I remembered the boss once telling us about how he started the company. He was 21 years old, surfing the internet, looking for freelancers, designers, tutors, programmers. He reached out to them, offering to connect them with clients for a percentage of the fee. Over time, he hired others to find clients and freelancers. Eventually, he got an accountant, opened an office, and the business took off. It was inspiring to see how far the company had come. I continued to have fun at the party, behaving more and more relaxed with my female colleagues, especially with Jessica. An hour later, she noticed my uncharacteristic behavior. "You're quite relaxed tonight, Bill," Jessica said with a teasing smile. "You usually never behave like this." I just smiled and said, "It's time to show who I really am." As the night went on, I found myself with my arm around Jessica's waist, enjoying her company. Just then, Lenny came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder. "Hey, buddy, your beloved is here," he said. "In the sense of Polly?" I asked, confused. "Well, yeah, she looks a little upset, but I see you're cheerful. Go cheer her up. She's standing at the entrance looking completely sad." Though I was already tipsy, the mention of Polly snapped me back to sobriety. I headed towards the exit and found Polly sitting on a bench outside. She looked distraught. I walked up to her and asked, "Hey, get up, you really look downcast." Polly looked up at me, tears in her eyes. "Bill, I'm so sorry, I love you so much. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." The more she talked about how bad she felt and how much she loved me, the stronger the alcohol took effect again, and I found it hard to take her words seriously. It was clear she was truly repentant, but my mind was clouded. Just then, Jessica came out of the door and called, "Bill, where did you go? We haven't finished yet." I took Polly by the shoulder in a friendly manner and said, "Let's talk tomorrow morning. Go to bed. I'll come back later." I headed back inside with Jessica. The party continued, and it was already starting to get dark outside. I was having fun and was no longer embarrassed in front of everyone. I hugged Jessica like she was my girlfriend, and she didn't mind at all. She was 11 years younger than Polly and seemed to enjoy my attention. Lenny jokingly said, "Hey, what are you doing, Bill? How will your Polly look at this?" I just laughed it off. I noticed everything about Jessica, how attractive she was, how I had never noticed it before. Jessica seemed to feel the same way about me. The night had passed in a blur of laughter, music, and alcohol. I had completely forgotten about Polly as I continued to have fun, especially with Jessica. We drank so much that it was hard to remember what happened next. The last clear memory I had was Jessica suggesting we go to the bathroom alone. She took my hand and led me there. I vaguely remembered entering the bathroom and my trouser fly coming undone. I wasn't going to the toilet, and my arms were outstretched to keep my balance. After that, my memories were cut off. The next morning, I woke up on the sofa at our workplace. The surrounding area was relatively clean, and the pizza boxes and sushi trays had been cleared away. My clothes and hair were all rumpled. I realized I remembered little after 2 a.m. when I went to the bathroom with Jessica. Lenny came over and asked, "Hey, how are you feeling?" Fine, I guess," I replied, still trying to piece together the previous night. "You were talking, having fun. First with everyone, then more with the young girls. You started paying more and more attention to Jessica. Seriously, you two looked like a couple in love. Then she took you by the hand in an unknown direction. What happened next only I saw in 2 other guys being honest. We helped put you and Jessica on the couches." I felt a wave of embarrassment and curiosity. "Wait, you saw what happened in the bathroom?" Lenny nodded a bit awkwardly. "Yeah, we saw. You guys were pretty out of it. Nothing too crazy happened, but we thought it best to get you both out of there." "And where's Jessica?" I asked, now more concerned. "She's on the sofa in another hallway. She'll wake up soon, I think." Lenny left and walked out into the hallway. As I stood up and stretched, Lenny's words echoed in my head. Did that really occur between me and Jessica? I looked around and saw Jessica, who was just waking up. She looked as disheveled as I felt. I approached her. "Good morning, are you okay?" She groaned. "My head is pounding." "Mine too," I replied. "I don't remember practically anything." "Yeah, me neither," she said with a tired smile. "I haven't drunk like that in a long time." I hesitated for a moment, then asked, "Listen, is it true that we were secluded in the bathroom, then you unzipped my trousers and—" Jessica interrupted me, looking at me with surprised eyes. "You are married, Bill. I knew this very well, and I couldn't do it. And you too, I hope." "Yes," I assured her. "It just doesn't fit in my head." After talking with Jessica, I returned to Lenny, needing some clarity. "Lenny, what exactly happened last night? Did Jessica really—" "You know," Lenny sighed and gave me a steady look. "Unlike you, I drank moderately and remembered everything perfectly. Don't worry, the boss was far away at the time and didn't see anything. You have authority in our company, so we won't tell anyone. And Jessica, well, we'll keep her secret too. You're safe." I looked at him with wide eyes, not quite believing what I was hearing. "Are you serious?" "Yes, Bill. Now go on, get out of here," Lenny said with a reassuring pat on my shoulder. I left the building, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts, and got into my car. Driving home, I wondered where Polly was. When I arrived, she wasn't there. Then it hit me. She was likely with Eva, staying the night in that apartment. Surprisingly, I didn't feel much about it anymore. It was as if I had come to expect it. I sat down on a chair thinking about what to do next. An idea formed in my mind. Today, after the corporate party, everyone had a day off. I decided to go camping for the whole day. There was a camping trail near the town, and I figured some time alone in nature would do me good, especially after last night. I packed my backpack, changed into suitable clothes, and took some food and water from the refrigerator. With everything ready, I headed to the campsite. The thought of spending the day alone, away from all the drama, was appealing. I began my journey around 11 o'clock in the morning. The trail was quiet, the only sounds being the crunch of leaves under my boots and the occasional bird call. It was exactly the escape I needed. By the time I reached somewhere in the middle of the trail, I decided to take a break and immerse myself in the serenity of nature. I found a comfortable stump to sit on, took out a sandwich and ate it slowly, savoring the peaceful surroundings. About 7 minutes passed when I heard a familiar voice behind me. I turned and saw Polly and Eva approaching, holding hands. My heart sank a little, but I tried to stay calm. After I left Polly on the street last night to go to the corporate party, she must have been upset. Eva probably comforted her through the night, and they had likely had sex again in the morning to unwind. Deciding to go for a walk on the trail, they didn't notice me at first since I was sitting with my back to them. I kept quiet, not wanting to draw attention to myself. They walked about 10 meters past me, completely unaware that I was sitting there. I watched them from the corner of my eye, noting how close they seemed, how naturally their hands intertwined. It was a painful sight, but I couldn't look away. As they continued down the path, I felt an urge to follow them, to see what they were up to. I got up quietly and trailed them at a safe distance. They turned towards a small pond, a secluded spot where they stood for a while, still holding hands. I watched as they turned to face each other and kissed on the lips. Just then, they turned around and headed back towards the path. That's when they noticed me. Eva's eyes widened in surprise. "Hey, were you following us?" she asked. "Not that it happened by accident," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. Polly looked at me with a mix of emotions, surprise, guilt, and maybe a hint of defiance. "Bill, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice shaky. "I needed some time alone," I said, shrugging. Eva sighed, glancing at Polly before turning back to me. "This is awkward, isn't it?" "Awkward doesn't even begin to cover it," I said, running a hand through my hair. "Look, I came out here to clear my head. I didn't plan to spy on you." Polly stepped forward, her grip tightening on Eva's hand. We didn't plan to run into you either. We just needed to get away for a bit. Yeah, I get that, I said, feeling the tension between us. So what now? Eva took a deep breath. Maybe we should all sit down and talk. We can't keep avoiding this. I nodded, agreeing reluctantly. All right, let's talk. But not here. There's a clearing up ahead. We can sit there. We walked in silence to the clearing. The awkwardness was palpable, but we all knew this conversation was long overdue. Once we reached the spot, we sat down on the grass, forming an uneasy triangle. I never wanted to hurt you, Bill, Polly started, her voice breaking. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I looked at her, trying to keep my emotions in check. You should have told me, Polly, instead of hiding it and letting it get to this point. Eva chimed in, her voice soft. It wasn't easy for Polly. She's been struggling with her feelings for a long time. Struggling? I echoed. You think this has been easy for me? Finding out my wife is not only cheating, but cheating with a woman? You blindsided me. I know, Polly said, tears welling up in her eyes. And I'm so sorry, I just didn't know how to tell you. We sat there, the weight of our situation pressing down on us. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. I need time to process all this. Polly nodded, wiping her tears. I understand. Take all the time you need. Eva reached out, placing a hand on my shoulder. We're not asking for your forgiveness right now, Bill. Just your understanding. I sighed, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. I don't know what I can give right now, but I'll try to understand. We sat there in silence for a while, each lost in our thoughts. It was a small step, but at least it was a step towards some kind of resolution. We walked around the pond and the surrounding area some more, trying to find our footing in this new and awkward reality. The conversation had opened a crack in the tension, but the air was still thick with unresolved emotions. After a while, we decided it was time to head back. Polly and Eva had come by bus, so I offered to give them a ride. They agreed, and we made our way back to my car. The drive was mostly silent, the earlier conversation still lingering in our minds. As we drove through the winding roads, I couldn't help but glance at Polly, who was staring out the window, lost in thought. I decided to break the silence with a question that had been gnawing at me. Polly, you understand that if you want me to stay with you, you'll have to stop your intimate relationship with Eva, right? Polly turned her head slightly, still not meeting my eyes. She nodded silently, her face a mix of resignation and sorrow. The weight of her decision was clear, and I could feel the strain it put on her. The silence enveloped us again as we continued the drive. When we arrived at our apartment, Polly got out of the car, her movements slow and deliberate. I'll talk to you later, Bill, she said softly before heading inside. I watched her go, feeling a pang of sadness and uncertainty. I then drove Eva back to her apartment. The atmosphere was tense, but Eva broke the silence. Bill, for what it's worth, I'm really sorry about all of this. I know, Eva, I replied. We pulled up to her apartment, and just as she was about to get out, my phone rang. It was Lenny. Hey, Bill, sorry to bother you, but there's something I need to talk to you about. Can you come by the office? Sure, Lenny, I'll be there in a bit, I said, hanging up. Eva looked at me curiously. Work stuff? Yeah, seems like it, I replied. I'll see you around, Eva. She nodded and got out of the car. As I drove to the office, I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had happened. When I arrived, Lenny was waiting for me at the entrance, looking unusually serious. What's going on, Lenny? I asked as I walked up to him. Bill, we need to talk about what happened at the corporate party last night, he said, leading me inside. We went to a quiet conference room and Lenny closed the door behind us. Listen, Bill, there's been some talk. Some people saw you and Jessica together and rumors are starting to spread. I felt a knot form in my stomach. What kind of rumors? Well, some are saying that you two were, a bit too close. And with the boss's wife showing up unexpectedly, it's caused quite a stir. She apparently saw you and Jessica together, and now the boss is not too happy. Wait, the boss's wife was there? I asked, shocked. Yeah, she showed up late and saw you and Jessica. The boss hasn't said anything directly to you yet, but he's definitely aware of the situation. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling the headache from the previous night return. Great, just what I needed. Lenny sighed. Look, I covered for you as much as I could, but you might want to lay low for a bit. The boss is going to want to talk to you sooner or later. I nodded, feeling the weight of yet another complication. Thanks, Lenny, I appreciate it. As I drove to work the next morning, I couldn't shake the feeling of stupidity that clung to me. Walking with Polly and Eva yesterday, I realized how much of an idiot I had been. My wife had cheated on me, yet I calmly and seriously walked with them, talking things through. I kept telling myself that I would have reacted the same way if it had been Polly and some bodybuilder. I parked my car and took a deep breath before heading into the office. As soon as I walked in, the atmosphere felt tense. Colleagues avoided eye contact and hushed whispers filled the air. I made my way to my desk, trying to focus on the tasks at hand. But it wasn't long before I received a message from the boss, asking me to come to his office. My heart sank as I stood up and walked down the hallway, each step feeling heavier than the last. When I entered the boss's office, he was sitting behind his desk, looking stern. His wife was sitting on a chair nearby, her expression unreadable. I closed the door behind me and stood there waiting for the inevitable confrontation. "Bill, have a seat," the boss said, gesturing to the chair in front of his desk. I sat down, feeling the weight of their gazes on me. "I understand there are some rumors going around about last night," I began, trying to get ahead of the conversation. "Rumors?" The boss's wife interjected, her tone sharp. "I saw you and that girl Jessica together. You were practically all over each other." I swallowed hard. I was drunk. I don't remember much of what happened, but I assure you, it wasn't what it looked like. The boss leaned forward, his expression serious. "Bill, I built this company on trust and professionalism. What happened last night was neither." "I know and I'm sorry," I said, my voice steady. "I've never behaved like that before, and it won't happen again." The boss's wife scoffed. "Sorry doesn't cut it. You embarrassed us and the company." I nodded, feeling the sting of her words. "I understand." The boss sighed and leaned back in his chair. "For now, consider this a formal warning. Any more incidents like this and you'll be out. Understood?" "Yes, sir," I replied, feeling a mix of relief and guilt. "Good. Now get back to work," he said, dismissing me with a wave of his hand. I left the office. Later that day, I was working on a campaign proposal when Jessica approached my desk. She looked nervous, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "Hey, can we talk?" she asked softly. I nodded, motioning for her to sit. "What's up?" "I'm sorry about last night," she began, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I didn't think." "It's okay, Jessica," I said, trying to reassure her. She seemed relieved. "Thanks, Bill, I appreciate it." By the end of the day, I was exhausted. The drive home was long. When I finally walked through the door, Polly was sitting on the couch, looking anxious. She stood up as soon as she saw me. "Bill, we need to talk." "I know," I replied, feeling a mix of dread and determination. "Let's sit down." We sat on the couch facing each other. "I thought a lot about what you said," Polly began, her voice trembling. "And I know I made a huge mistake." "What else?" I asked. "I love you, Bill. I don't want to lose you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I'll end things with Eva, I promise." "If you say so, Polly." That's all I wanted to answer her. I wasn't going to forgive her, coming to my senses after that walk at the campsite. She turned out to understand it. The tension at home and work was suffocating. I decided to take a walk in the park to clear my head. As I wandered through the park, the memory of my conversation with Eva lingered. I needed advice, someone who could provide a different perspective. I pulled out my phone and decided to call my father, who lived with my mother in another city. The phone rang a few times before he picked up. "Hey, Bill, it's good to hear from you." "Hi, Dad, I need to talk to you about something," I said, my voice heavy with emotion. "Sure, son, what's on your mind?" I took a deep breath and started from the beginning, telling him everything about Polly, Eva, and the events of the past few weeks. I recounted how I'd discovered Polly's affair, the awkward walk with them in the park, the corporate party, and the fallout at work. My father's silence on the other end of the line was unnerving, but I pushed through until I had told him everything. When I finished, there was a moment of silence before my father spoke. "Bill, what the hell are you doing?" I was taken aback by his sudden outburst. What do you mean, Dad? I mean, why on earth did you walk with them in the park? Why did you take them home? Why are you even still with Polly after what she did? Dad, it's complicated, I began, but he cut me off. Complicated? Son, she cheated on you. And not just with anyone, but with another woman. I don't care if it was a man or a woman. Cheating is cheating. You should have left her the moment you found out. I sighed, feeling the weight of his words. I know, Dad. But I don't know. I wanted to give her a chance to explain. I thought maybe we could work through it. Work through it? Bill, you're my son and I love you, but you're being a damn fool. You walked with your wife while she was holding hands with another person. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? How can you tolerate this? It doesn't matter that it's a woman. Infidelity is infidelity. I guess I was trying to be understanding, I muttered, feeling increasingly defensive. Understanding. You don't have to understand anything except that she betrayed your trust. If you stay with her, you'll never be happy. Trust me on this, Bill. You need to leave her, right now. His words cut deep. I'd been trying to navigate this mess, hoping for some kind of resolution, but hearing it from my father made everything painfully clear. So you think I should just walk away? End it all? Absolutely. Look, relationships are built on trust and respect. Polly broke both. By staying with her, you're only prolonging your own misery. You deserve better than this, son. But what about the years we've spent together? The memories, the life we've built? I asked, my voice cracking. Bill, think about your future. Do you really want to live in constant doubt and pain? Every time you look at Polly, you'll be reminded of her betrayal. It's not worth it. I paused, letting his words sink in. I guess I just needed to hear it from someone else. And I'm telling you, as your father, you need to move on. Find someone who will respect and love you the way you deserve. Polly made her choice, and now you need to make yours. Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized the truth in his words. Thanks, Dad. I appreciate your honesty. Anytime, Bill. Remember, your mother and I are here for you. If you need anything, just call. I will, Dad. Thanks again. We said our goodbyes, and I ended the call. I sat on a park bench, staring at the phone in my hand. That evening, I returned home from my walk, feeling the weight of my father's words. As I stepped into the house, I heard the sound of running water from the bathroom. Polly was taking a shower. I sighed and walked into the living room, trying to muster the strength for the inevitable confrontation. My eyes caught sight of Polly's phone on the coffee table, buzzing with a new message. I hesitated for a moment, then picked it up and saw that it was from Eva. My heart pounded as I read the message. Polly, think about the advantages of being with me. I understand you, support you, and make you feel alive. Leaving Bill will free you from the constant guilt and tension. We can build a life together without secrets or lies. I love you. Your darling Eva. When Polly came out of the bathroom, I was waiting for her, holding the phone. Bill, what's wrong? She asked, her face full of concern. I held up the phone. I got a message from Eva. Care to explain? Her eyes widened and she stammered. Bill, I can explain. Save it, Polly, I said, cutting her off. I've heard enough. I'm done with this. I'm done with you. She tried to persuade me, tears streaming down her face, but I didn't listen. I had made up my mind. I couldn't live like this anymore. The next morning, I filed for divorce. The process was quicker than I had anticipated. We divided our assets with little argument. Polly kept the apartment registered to her parents while I retained our savings and my car. She moved in with Eva, no longer renting the apartment but living there full-time. I didn't care. I continued to go to work, and my relationship with the boss began to normalize. The tension from the corporate party slowly faded, and the boss's wife stopped showing up. Gradually, even a healthy sense of camaraderie and sympathy developed between Jessica and me, not the drunken foolishness from the party, but a genuine sympathy. One day, after a particularly productive meeting, the boss pulled me aside. Bill, I wanted to talk to you about something. I felt a knot in my stomach. Sure, what's up? I know things have been tough for you lately, but I've noticed how hard you've been working and the professionalism you've maintained. I just wanted to say I appreciate it, he said, offering a rare smile. Thanks, I replied, genuinely touched. That means a lot. And listen, he continued. If you ever need to talk or take some time off, don't hesitate to let me know. We're a team here. I nodded, feeling a sense of relief. I appreciate that, really. 6 months have passed since the day I filed for divorce. In that time, I've made a lot of changes. I decided to reinvent myself, starting with my appearance. I bought several stylish suits and shirts, making sure to select colors and cuts that suited me. I also grew out a beard, keeping it neatly trimmed and even. I changed my hairstyle to complement the shape of my head, giving me a more polished and confident look. Socially, I've reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I've embraced my hobbies and found joy in small, everyday moments. Recently, I found out that Polly and Eva got married. When I heard the news, I was surprised but felt a sense of closure. Silently, I wished them good luck. Then, with a wry smile, I made a joke to myself about wishing them success with their channel on that adult film website.